It's June 19th, 2016. We're at Oracle Arena in Oakland, California. There's 1 minute left in Game 7 of the 2016 NBA Finals between the returning champion Warriors and the returning runner-up Cavaliers. The score is tied at 89, but before we see which way the score breaks, we have to remember all the effort and pride and angst and groin shots that got us here. We have to rewind. Though this is a finals rematch, you'll note there are a few guys we didn't see last year when LeBron didn't have much help. Determined to bring a championship to the city he ditched for South Beach glory, the city that hadn't seen a championship of any sort since a football one in 1964, LeBron had to face MVP Steph Curry and the rest of the 67-win Warriors in last year's finals. And he had to do it without Kevin Love, who dislocated his shoulder in the first round, and without Kyrie Irving, who broke his kneecap in Game 1's overtime loss. But LeBron just put Cleveland on his back and actually went up 2-1. Then, an already fairly viscous plot thickened. The Warriors realized they should be starting their best LeBron defender and created a small, agile lineup that would come to be known as the Death Lineup. Iguodala made King James look like some kind of pauper that the real king keeps around just to laugh at. The smaller lineup spaced the floor, sped up the game, and the Warriors took it in 6. Though you couldn't help but wonder, could Cleveland have won with Kyrie and Love? And now we get to see that scenario play out. Though I should point out another difference to the Cavs this year. Cleveland started this year with returning coach David Blatt, and by January they were first in the East with a record of 30-11. They were living up to the high expectations foisted upon LeBron, and by default, them too. And what do you do when things are going smoothly? Rock the boat and drown the captain. The Cavs fired Blatt. Why? Well, depends on who you ask. GM David Griffin said there was a lack of chemistry that would doom their title chances. Everyone else said LeBron was a coach killer. 2 of his other coaches have been fired. There were rumors he had tried to get Miami's Eric Spoelstra fired. Plus, he didn't like Blatt. He preferred assistant Tyronn Lue, who was relatively inexperienced, and what do you know, Lue got Blatt's job. But as the season went on, it looked like LeBron still wasn't happy in Cleveland. He took a trip to Miami to work out with Dwayne Wade, sent some weird tweets that were almost definitely subtweeting his teammates, unfollowed the Cavs' Twitter account, and gave an interview saying he wanted to one day play with pals Melo, Wade, and CP3. The logical conclusion was LeBron doesn't want to play with his current teammates. A narrative developed that LeBron had made a mistake coming back to Cleveland, that Irving and Love were no Wade and Bosh, and LeBron wasn't good enough to win a title with not Wade and not Bosh. But as the regular season wound down, the Cavs, LeBron decided to write his own narrative, one entitled, "I'm really good at basketball." In the playoffs, the Cavs swept the Pistons, the Hawks, and won the Eastern Conference Finals in 6 games, thus punching their ticket to this finals rematch. While the Cavs have some different personnel, the Warriors have the same old death lineup. Though they were missing Steve Kerr for the start of the season, Kerr was out until January dealing with side effects from back surgery. Without their head coach, the Warriors were better than anyone has ever seen before in their lives. They jumped out to a 24-0 start, punting the previous record-best start into deep space. With Kerr back, they just kept winning and finished the regular season with 73 victories, becoming the most winning team in NBA history. How'd they do it? Moving the ball to create 3-point opportunities, which they always capitalized on? Curry in particular was incredible beyond the arc, way beyond the arc, and honestly all over the court. He led the league in points, free throw percentage, and steals. And he was the first ever unanimous MVP. Despite all that regular season success, Golden State had some trouble in the Western Conference Finals. They went down 3-1 to a very tight-knit, almost brotherly young duo. But then Clay and Steph were like, oh, hold up, we have a superpower called scoring a million points at will, and they took the series in 7 games. Now, they're in another do-or-die Game 7. At the start of this series, it certainly didn't look like we were getting 7 games. Even with Steph and Clay shooting poorly in the first 2 games, Golden State won big thanks to their third All-Star and talented bench. Strength in numbers, as they say. But in Game 3, Kyrie and LeBron were hot, and Cleveland took home a big old win. only to succumb to a big old loss when Steph made 7 threes and scored 38 total in Game 4, which put the Cavs down 3-1. Nobody has ever come back from a 3-1 finals deficit. Things looked bleak in Cleveland. They did get a small break when the league reviewed the brief scuffle between James and Green in Game 4 and realized Green threw in a groin shot. He was retroactively assessed a flagrant 1, and because he'd also kicked Steven Adams in the groin in the Western Conference Finals, he now had so many flagrant points he was automatically suspended for Game 5. The Warriors didn't seem too concerned. Curry even said if they win the title, nobody would ever remember this mere momentary setback. Though I'd argue Steven Adams would remember. But look, the fact is they were up 3-1. Why not be confident? Because in Game 5, Andrew Bogut suffered a season-ending injury and both LeBron and Kyrie scored 41 points? Yeah, that's a reason, sure. In Game 6, the Cavs led the whole way, probably because LeBron scored 41 points again. Curry shot well, but couldn't close the gap. With 4:22 left, down 12, he got his 6th foul, which, according to both Kerr and Ayesha Curry's later deleted tweet, was total bullshit. Upon fouling out, Steph threw his mouthguard in frustration, who wouldn't, which hit a fan and absolutely delighted Tyronn Lue. What a fun first finals as head coach. You force a Game 7 and break the MVP all in one game. Unlike the other games in this series, tonight is not a blowout. On the contrary, tonight we've seen 20 lead changes and 11 ties. The score right here has been stagnant for the past 3 minutes and 46 seconds. And that's not for lack of trying. Both teams stuck to the offensive game plans that led them to success this season. The Warriors moved the ball until they found a three-point look, but it didn't work. Twice? Iguodala missed in the corner, and Green, wide open, missed another one. The Cavs' reliable offensive strategy wasn't working either. LeBron missed, though he might have been fouled. Love missed, Kyrie missed, and Iguodala snatched the rebound and took off. Advantage Warriors in a 2-on-1. Iguodala and Steph give and go, and oh my god, LeBron James is unbelievable. What was that? How did he do that? Superhuman. A chase-down block that epitomizes these come-from-behind, never-give-up finals for the Cavs. A hustle play in the fourth quarter of Game 7 that's all effort and determination. The score stays tied. Next time down the floor, the unanimous MVP took matters into his own hands. He created some space behind the arc where he's most dangerous, and it just hit the backboard with a dull thud. I assume Curry's heart made the same sound as it hit the pit of his stomach. Someone's bound to break this stalemate. This possession is potentially one of the biggest in NBA history, and LeBron is just hanging in the corner? Because this play is being run for Kyrie Irving. The Cavs drafted Kyrie first overall in 2011. It was 1 year after they'd been publicly spurned by LeBron, and they were looking for a new star/savior. Irving's first 3 years in the league were solid. He was Rookie of the Year in 2012. In his sophomore season, he was an All-Star and won the three-point contest. Fun weekend for him. And in 2014, he was the All-Star MVP. But all his success was individual. The Cavs did improve a little each year, but they never finished above 500, nor did they make the playoffs. Kyrie was the best guy on a bad team, and in the summer of 2014, he was up for a contract extension. It was time for the Cavs to get serious about building around him. Yeah, James was a free agent, but nobody really thought he'd come to Cleveland. Days before they could talk with Kyrie about his contract, the Cavs hired David Blatt, seen as a good thing at the time, and selected Andrew Wiggins first overall to join Irving in the backcourt. In a restaurant in New York City, Kyrie met with the Cavs management and signed a max deal. Then he got to work recruiting the players he wanted around him. Kyrie's Cavs were starting to take shape. Actually, everybody shut up. LeBron's about to say something. The Cavs brass was suddenly like, who? The point guard? He's fine. He's on a title-contending team. Hey, do you think LeBron will like my shirt? Wiggins was dealt for Kevin Love, and Kyrie found himself in a big three where he was not the apex. And he didn't hit it off with LeBron. James wanted a playmaker, Kyrie wanted to dribble to the rim with signature finesse. In just the third game of the season, the Cavs were crushed by Portland. After the game, James expressed displeasure with Kyrie's score-first style in a conversation that was called healthy. But I have a feeling Kyrie resented it because, 1, he left the locker room without talking to the media, And 2, the next night, he did not change his style of play. In fact, he leaned into it and finished with 0 assists. But they learned to live with each other enough to make it to the finals, and if it weren't for a broken kneecap, could have maybe won those finals. This season, once again, Kyrie looked to score rather than assist. While Cleveland didn't admit they were bereft of playmakers, the press had no problem highlighting the issue. Kyrie suffered headlines saying he wasn't ready to lead a team, which seems a little mean, considering he does not have that opportunity whatsoever. Take, for example, the game where the Cavs failed to clinch the #1 spot in the East. Kyrie played poorly, and in the middle of the night, texted LeBron an apology. Kyrie's not the guy for the Cavs. He came close, but instead he's just support staff. Tonight, he's been filling that role. Sure, he started off slow with only 9 points in the first half, but he came alive in the second half and added 14 more. With the ball in his hands, Cleveland needs somebody to step up and score. There's 1 minute left to write the story of the 2016 NBA season. Will the Warriors crown their record-setting season with a title, or become the first team in history to blow a 3-1 finals lead? Will the Cavs' prodigal son bring home a championship? Or will they say he can't win without better players by his side? One thing's for sure, if this tie lasts any longer, the tension will most likely explode Oracle Arena. Welcome to a moment in history.
Irving and Curry, one-on-one. Irving puts it up. It's good! Kyrie Irving from downtown! And the Cavaliers by 3.
And let's get some closure real quick.
Rebound tip taken by Spades. Final seconds. It's over! It's over! Cleveland is a city of champions once again!
Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe and don't forget to watch more videos. We've got more Warriors Cavs, we've got more LeBron. You really just never have to get up again. For Secret Base, I'm Clara Morris. Good night and good game.